Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, May 15th, and boy, do we have a lot going on weather-wise, earthquakes, you name it, but there is quite a bit of stuff to go over. Let's start with our space weather. First off, our solar wind speeds are coming in at 328.9 kilometers per second with a density of 4.8. The sun is blank once again. That is now 13 days in a row without sunspots. 104 days in 2020 so far without sunspots. 76% of the year so far has been spotless. Last year we finished with 77%, and that was the record on space age record, that is, as far as a year without sunspots. 77% was a space age record. Let's go over to the grandsolarminimum.com at our space weather station real quick, and we will check out some more space weather stats. Now you guys can see that we had some solar X-ray flux activity, a little bit of inclination there. KP indices have been stuck right around 1 and 2, and that's why we have the earthquake that we'll report here on just in a second. Right now there is an Earth-facing coronal hole as well. So with Earth-facing coronal holes, and it's not that big, guys, so this is nothing to write home to, but it's right there, Earth-facing, turning away from Earth. I believe that was the coronal hole, and with the KP indices the way it is, I believe that might have had something to do with why we got the earthquake in Nevada, the 6.5. But there you see a bright active region just about to pierce the eastern limb. So will that be our next sunspot? Right now we're 13 days in a row without a sunspot, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but it seems like each spotless streak we go on, the spotless days in a row gets smaller and smaller. Is this an indication that solar cycle 25 is about to switch on in the next few months? It's possible. But we have seen these active regions in the past get bright and then pierce the eastern limb, and they're not sunspots. It has happened. In the location of this one, this would have to be a part of solar cycle 25. Taking a look once again at our star, where probably tomorrow we will know if that's a sunspot or not tomorrow. But we will have some solar wind to deal with on May, I think, 18th. Let's go back to the space weather station. Yeah, May 18th, we're expecting solar wind to affect our magnetosphere, or magnetic field. Right now, like I said, the KP indice is sitting at a 1 with a 24-hour max of a 2. Our TCI coming in at 3.27. It is dropping. It is not a record, but we are near the record. The record is 2.05. And to make it into the 2 value is going to be flirting close with that record. We haven't seen below 3 in quite some time. TCI is the thermosphere climate index. That's the very top of the atmosphere, and it is cooling fast. All right, let's get on over to some of our headlines today. First, I want to talk about the Great Geomagnetic Storm of May of 1921. A lot of things with this story that kind of made me go, This is probably the Carrington event's brother. The intensity from this storm was of almost equal to the Carrington event. It began on May 12, 1921, when a giant sunspot, AR 1842, crossing the sun during the declining phase of solar cycle 15, began to flare. One explosion after another hurled coronal mass ejections directly towards Earth for the next 3 days. The CMEs rocked Earth's magnetic field. Scientists around the world were surprised when their magnetometers suddenly went off the scale. Pens and strip chart recorders pegged uselessly to the top of the paper. Then fires began around 2 o'clock. On May 15th, the telegraph exchange in Sweden bursted into flames. About an hour later, the same thing happened across the Atlantic in the village of Brewster in New York. Flames engulfed the switchboard at Brewster Station of the Central New England Railroad and quickly spread to destroy the whole building. That fire, along with another one about the same time in a railroad control tower near New York City's Grand Central Station, is why the event sometimes is referred to as the New York Railroad Superstorm. What caused the fires? Electrical currents induced by geomagnetic activity surged through telephone and telegraph lines, heating them to the point of combustion. Strong currents disrupted the telegraph systems in Australia, Brazil, Denmark, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, the UK, and the United States of America. The Ottawa Journal reported that many long-distance telephone lines in New Brunswick were burned out by the storm. On some telegraph lines in the U.S., voltages spiked as high as 1,000 volts. During the storm's peak on May 15th, southern cities like Los Angeles and Atlanta felt like Fairbanks, with northern tier lights dancing overhead while telegraph lines crackled with geomagnetic currents. Auroras were seen in the U.S. as far as south as Texas, while in the Pacific, red auroras were sighted from Samoa and Tonga, and ships at sea crossing the equator. What would happen if such a storm hit today? Now we know that this thing had the intensity of the Carrington event. If the storm hit today, I'd expect it to lead to most, if not all, of the impacts outlined in the 2013 Royal Academy of Engineering report led by Paul Cannon. This could include regional power outages, profound changes to satellite orbits, loss of radio-based technologies such as GPS. The disruption of the GPS could significantly impact logistics and emergency services. It's something to think about on the 99th anniversary of a 100-year storm. And I think most of you, we talk a lot on this channel about 100-year storms and once-in-a-lifetime floods and this and that and that and this. So is it possible? Absolutely. During a grand solar minimum.
Your volume up.
My volume up. Okay, it's up.
GarageBand volume up.
Oh, yeah, that could be the problem.
Sorry.
That's all right. Better late than never. All right, hopefully that's a little better for you. If it's too loud, you can turn it down, I guess, huh? All right, let's move on. But something to think about. 99 years ago today, we had the second most powerful solar storm to affect our grid, telephone wires. Reading this story, hearing about the crackling wires reminded me of the Carrington event. That's how it was described then as well. So can this happen today? Absolutely. And that's why you hear people talk about Faraday cages. Because of events like this that are right around the corner, it's possible. I mean, with everything that happens to our planet from the sun in cycles, why wouldn't these types of events be in cycles? 1859 is not exactly 100 years from 1921, so I'm not saying there is a time on this type of storm, this type of event. But still, something to think about. This would not be a good time for us to experience such a solar storm. It would do so much damage to power lines, power grids. At a time like this where we need to stay connected, this would be the worst time to have a storm like this. And speaking of solar-related events, strong and shallow 6.5 earthquake hits Nevada. Aftershocks have been reported. This one is a pretty decent one, a 6.5. And let's zoom in a little bit here. We got this solo earthquake in Oklahoma, a little 2.6, nothing really to worry about. But let's check out the big one here, 6.5, and several aftershocks. I don't know, maybe Mari can look and see if we have any damage reports. But if I'm not mistaken, this was near a town that had a population of 155. So this appears to be a remote area, but guys, I'm scrolling through to find the 6.5, and this is unreal. Here we go. We found it. There she is. 6.5 on the Richter scale. A depth of 2.8 kilometers. Pretty shallow. Or is that more than that? It says 56 here. Oh, it's 56 kilometers west of Tonopah, Nevada. Now let's zoom in. Let's see if I can get a look here. This is not really the best map. No, this is not the map I wanted, but take a look at this swarm. And we're getting earthquakes in California as well. Aftershocks, nothing major. 3.3, 2.5 in Ridgecrest, 2.6 Lone Pine, 2.5, nothing crazy. One on the border here for 2.5. We've had 4.8s, 5.1s, but right now, the big one that started this swarm was 6.5. Several dozen here. It looks to be probably close to what, 100 aftershocks right now or more since earlier this morning. And I'm going to have to go ahead and correlate this with definitely the sun had something to do with it. When you have an Earth-facing coronal hole and KP indices are at a 1 and a 24-hour max of 2, that is the ripe opportunity for earthquakes. Now, I'm not an expert on this. I just report on this stuff. But I know enough about how this works to where we're going to have an earthquake when those situations, when those conditions are there. There's a lot of good people out there who know how to predict exactly where they're going to hit. And my hat's off to folks like that. And that takes some dedication to research and what they do. So, and I am not claiming to be an earthquake expert by any means, but like I said, we did have an Earth-facing coronal hole, KP at 1 and 2, and we get a strong quake in Nevada. But this is a little concerning a little bit, and we're going to continue to watch this swarm. Earthquakes updated. Let's see if we got any more. I think another one just happened, another 3.6. 3.6 in Tonopah. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So earthquakes continue to strike out in Nevada. We'll keep you guys updated if anything happens while we're on the air live. I'll be sure to report on that as well. Heavy downpours over the weekend triggered floods and landslides in Guatemala, killing at least 3 people and causing buildings to collapse. The victims were said to be the first casualties of the rainy season in the country, which lasts from May until November. Days later on May 11th, this happened on May 9th, and then on May 11th, we had 2 more people that lost their lives after a wall collapsed due to heavy rain in Zacapa in the same department. The rainy season usually starts now and ends in November, but showers have been hitting the southern region since late April. As of May 11th, around 16,000 people have been affected by 19 disasters caused by severe weathers. About 50 houses have been partially or totally damaged and 44 people displaced. And speaking of storms, I know we're live right now, and I want to say this to Mari. I did plan on covering the severe weather that we're getting ready to face here in parts of the United States. Right now, in the Northeast, in the upstate New York region, we are in a tornado watch. And I wanted to point out to Mari, this is the sun's out right now. It's been out for a little bit. The longer the sun is out and we're getting the heat right now, this is what's going to build up the severe storm. We are in a severe thunderstorm watch. Conditions have been overcast all day, but to have this sun right before we're supposed to get storms later this afternoon, this is a ripe situation, and we could see some pretty strong storms here coming in later. And I know that I was talking about earthquakes and landslides, but I had to check this real quick because I just noticed the sun coming out. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here on the radar and check out this storm as it's moving in right now. And that's a pretty strong line of storms. Waiting for my computer. There we go. So it looks like we're about 45 minutes away. And there is a very, very, very strong cell right here. And Mari, would you mind, fix this arrow for me, if you don't mind. I missed this thing. Let's put this into motion real quick.
What am I doing?
This arrow, look what it's doing. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do.
Wah, 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 wah. Okay, go here and drag it up.
You always save the day, don't you?
Yeah, you know.
Okay, so let's take a look at this radar right now. It's been pretty clear that for the most day there's been clouds. Now the clouds have moved out, and we're starting to see some sunshine up here in the upstate New York region, and these things are developing right behind it. So, like I said, sun coming out right now, not a good sign. 45 minutes to an hour out, this storm is. And we'll have to keep a close eye. Hopefully, we'll be able to finish the broadcast before the storm ends. Taking a look right now, let's see if we have any details. Special weather statement. Tornado watch is in effect till 10 p.m. tonight. Let's check out the special statement on the hazardous weather outlook. Special statement here. Strong thunderstorms. When they're arriving at 4:06, radar indicated what we just showed you. Movement was east at 45 miles per hour. So right about 45 minutes to an hour is probably close to correct here. But radar indicated strong thunderstorms. We are located along the line extending from Boonville to Delta Lake to near Bridgeport. Wind excess of 40 miles per hour, half-inch hail are possible with these storms. Locations include Ohio, Newport, Middleville, Poland, Colebrook, Northwood, Russia, Fairfield, Norway, West Frankfort, Noblesboro, Curtis, Farrow Corner, Countryman, First Lake, Burrell Corners, Kelly Corners, Old City, Gray, and Atwell. Now, this is from the Albany, and there's also strong thunderstorms to affect other parts of the capital region. And pretty much everybody here in this box that I showed you is under Glens Falls, Saratoga, all under this watch. So strong thunderstorms on the way here for the Northeast, but what about Texas? Because we're dealing with severe weather pretty much all over the country. We'll get back to that at the end here, but I'll go ahead and cue it up. But we will be reporting on the south as well. Storms are beginning to fire up across Oklahoma. Lots to talk about, guys. Dangerous Typhoon Vongfong, AMBO, makes landfall over eastern Samar. Now, 500 UTC, May 14th, the center of the Typhoon Vongfong was located in the vicinity of Oraz, eastern Samar. The system had maximum sustained winds of 96 miles per hour and gusts up to 118. This is equivalent to a Category 2. Check out the watchers here. Make a little video here as we get. That's a pretty impressive storm. Heavy to intense rains are expected over Samar provinces, also in Masbate, Sorsogon, and Catanduanes on May 14th. Moderate to heavy rain with at times intense rains are expected over Albay, Camarines, Sur, and the rest of the eastern Visayas. So already, and more rain to come over to the Bicol region as well by May 15th. Moderate to heavy rain with times of intense rains expected over northern Samar, Quezon, Aurora, Marinduque, and Romblin. Residents in these areas are advised to take appropriate measures, coordinate with their local disaster to risk reduction and to coordinate with local disaster risk reduction and management offices. Continue to monitoring for updates, especially the local rainfall or thunderstorm advisories and heavy rainfalls from the PAGASA Regional Services Divisions. Flooding and rain-included landslides as well may occur in highly to very highly susceptible areas during the heavy and prolonged rainfall. Let's switch it to snow. Snow in Norway on the 12th of May, Tuesday. Not unusual, but we're getting it still. Could not be played. Liars. Okay, not going to waste time with that. And then Russia. They had the snowstorm on May 14th. It's been covered again with snow again. But they have sense of humor because this is not unusual to have snow around this time of year. They just take it with a grain of salt and make joke about it. So why am I reporting about snow, especially in areas that's supposed to have snow, right? Well, check this out. And I got to give a shout out to Scott Rose because nobody does a better job at covering this. He's got multiple reports a week on this. Scott Rose out of Detroit, Michigan, follower of our channel and Facebook groups as well. And usually you see this, go down and get below average, especially around this time of year. This is impressive to see the snow mass. Now, a lot of people complain, especially you folks in Europe and the UK. You got really no snow this year. The total flop when it comes to snowfall in those regions. The U.S. was hit and miss. But we did see snow all over the Northern Hemisphere from September. And so far, we're at May 15th. Still reporting snow in some parts of the world. And the point I'm trying to make is we're above average. Now, last year, if you remember, that snow mass was way up there. I mean, it was smashing records. That thing was beyond the 3,500. And then it declined quickly in the spring and summer. But we're seeing a consistent decline here, but it's still above average. So still lots of snow falling in the month of May in the Northern Hemisphere. Just a little fact I like to bring up for all you Al Gore followers out there, if that's a thing. Snowfall in the upper elevations in the lower 48. Nothing crazy here. It's May. We're not going to see any more snow. In fact, when we go into the GFS outlook, you'll see maybe some snow in the higher elevations for Idaho and Montana in the early part. But after that, I mean, it looks like, fingers crossed, snow might be done in the lower 48. There's a look at your Arctic sea ice extent. You'll see that this ice is pulling back from the orange lines, which is typical. This is where we begin the melt here in the Arctic. You see it here. I had a pretty good April. This was pretty much full in April, but still decent and strong at this point as well. And taking a look at this little stormy here in the near Florida. We talked about this last week, earlier this week as well. And now it looks increasingly likely that we could see our first tropical storm of the season. Before June, there's a list of storms that we've seen. Alex, Arlene, Anna, Andrea, Alberto, and Bonnie. I'm curious, how was Bonnie a named storm and it was the first? It's a little confusing. Usually the first named storm of the year is the first letter of the alphabet, but who am I to say anything?
Maybe something else happened, Jake. We'll have to investigate.
Is this a major system? No. But it is early. And as you guys saw here at the top, April 19th, May 8th, May 20th. So, this is right in line as an early storm. Not the earliest, but it's not the latest. And we rank right here in the middle with this one here. So interesting start to the tropical season. Already underway. And listen, they did update their forecast. AccuWeather did, and others as well. They are saying now that this is going to be a very active hurricane season. Guess what changed the forecast? That's right, La Nina. La Nina usually does not allow development for wind shear. Therefore, if there's no wind shear to stop the hurricane, there you go. There's where you get the majority of your storms. And right now, we are looking at a potential La Nina later this summer. So this should be an interesting August and September this year. Take a look at the models, what they're thinking on this. This is GFS's models. This is Invest 90L. As you see, it is not going to make landfall on the East Coast. But that doesn't mean we don't have something else to look out for, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Severe storms and significant flooding take aim at Texas. Days of stormy weather across the plains may have residents wishing for sunshine, but AccuWeather meteorologist says the week of active weather across the region isn't over just yet. The week began with a feisty storm that unleashed damaging winds and hail across the western half of the Lone Star State on Monday and spun up 2 EF0 tornadoes as well southeast as Austin on Tuesday. Wednesday ushered in yet another round of strong storms from western Texas to southern Kansas. While Texas made it through Thursday unscathed by damaging storms, areas farther north weren't so fortunate. Severe storms fired up from eastern Kansas to northern Illinois Thursday and dumped flooding rain, hail, damaging wind across a wide swath of the nation's midsection. Severe storms are forecast to fire up across the southern plain once again Friday afternoon as very moist air streams into the region from the Gulf of Mexico. It says here this impetus for severe storm inundation Friday is likely to be a dry line forecast to develop over western Texas. A dry line essentially is a divided line between very dry air to the west and very moist air to the east and tends to be a hotspot for storms to develop. Friday afternoon, severe thunderstorms right now are in the forecast to occur in Midland, Texas. These storms will expand into southern Oklahoma and become better organized and trek eastward across southern Oklahoma, central and eastern Texas through Friday night. The main threats associated with any storms Friday afternoon through Friday will be large hail, damaging winds, and even isolated tornado or two. And the storm max winds we could see as strong as 65 miles per hour during a severe thunderstorm. Again, large hail, isolated tornadoes, damaging winds of 65 miles per hour in isolated locations. By Saturday, the main weather threat for the Lone Star State will shift away from severe storms and focus on heavy rain. So the 1-2 punch, severe storms, quick burst of moisture, damaging wind, hail, possibly tornadoes. And then Saturday into Sunday, persistent downpours, flash flooding, drought relief indeed, but a storm max of 6 inches. Yeah. Let's take a look at our current radar again. I'll go ahead and update it real quick. Check out our Storm Prediction Center. Enhanced risk across the New York, central New York, and the capital region near upstate. Also parts of western Massachusetts, southern Vermont, and southern New Hampshire. And then we have severe thunderstorm. And listen, I've said this before. If you have the bullseye, the more colors they put in here, usually these areas will get severe storms. The yellow, maybe, possibility, weaken before or after. The green is enhanced and not so much, maybe a thunderstorm. And the light green is the chances are probable. But when you see it get to this color, now this isn't the worst. There's 2 more shades. One's like a red and then the other one's a pink. And that's extreme, and that is 100%. Wherever you see that pink, that's what the area is getting nailed. But to go this far up on the chart, this is a 3. Out of 5, this is at an elevated risk of 3. And that's pretty high. So definitely on the lookout across central Texas and southern Oklahoma, and also in New York, Massachusetts, parts of Vermont and New Hampshire are included And then we have a little corner here in northeast Colorado, northwest or southwest Nebraska, and the four corners of Kansas as well could be affected. Again, we are under a tornado watch for all of the capital region here in New York. And this will go on until 10 p.m. tonight. Let's check out where else we could see watches. Let's go into Central Texas. You name it. Severe thunderstorm watch, severe thunderstorm warning in parts of Big Spring and Post. Flash flood warning. We don't see those at this point, but after what we just reported, nearly 6 inches of rain is expected in the region. We could have some flash flooding, severe flash flooding from this as well. When you get all that rain after a drought, we're also going to be looking out for things like sinkholes, mudslides as well. So we'll continue to watch this weather as this afternoon is developing into a possible stormy afternoon into this evening. Now here in the south, we got storms popping up all over parts of Mississippi. And if we take a look here, there is a good swath of rain below New Orleans and is spinning around. So it looks like south of New Orleans, that heavy rain, you don't have to worry about it. Beaumont, Texas, being affected by storms and showers right now. The Houston area also affected by some light rain. But here's some severe weather flaring up now for Oklahoma. And this is almost like the shape of a decker. It's a decker. Deco. It's a decaro or deco. I think it's a deco. Actually, this kind of loses its formation as it moves south. But at first, it looked like a deco. I'm probably not saying that right. And what I'm trying to explain is when the area kind of bows out like a shield and moves south and plummets. We've seen one already about a week ago. So this radar is starting to light up now. Unfortunately, my internet is not able to keep up. Let's check out Ohio. We have rain showers moving in across Louisville and Frankfort, Kentucky. This is just light to heavy showers, nothing crazy, no strong winds. But this particular part of the United States, the atmosphere is very, very, very ripe for severe weather activity. And I can tell you now, the longer this sun stays out here in Glens Falls, we are going to see a pretty explosive storm here in the next 45 minutes. I love how fast this radar updates. And we supposedly have the best internet money can buy. I'm not buying it.
Are you on Wi-Fi or Ethernet?
I'm on the Ethernet. Here we go. I'm going to pause this actually here at the end. Let's move this radar up to here. Let's pause it. So right now we're in near Utica. Syracuse is getting barreled right now. Buffalo's got some after showers going on. It's moving across central New York. Binghamton, you're about 15 minutes away from some action. The Albany capital region, we're probably about 45 minutes to an hour away. And from the looks of it, we could see a pretty good swath here in the North Country above Saratoga Springs. I'm thinking right now this cell is going to continue to trek east and affect up here in this area. The worst of it is probably going to be from Saratoga Springs up. And then we've got to worry about the Albany area that could see something from this line of storms as well, as we're seeing secondary lines being formed. And like I said, the conditions right now, guys, let me tell you, you can feel the humidity. And this is not a part of the country that's usually humid out. And we have had nothing but 40s and 50s and 60s over the last several weeks. So today is the first time that we've actually had temperatures that feel like spring or close to summer-like. But you can feel the air is sticky, very, very, very humid out here at this time. So let's take a look at our GFS outlook, what to expect here in the coming days. Not just the system that's down here in Florida, But we need to watch up here in the Northeast, New York City. There's a particular interesting development here. Once we get through Sunday, another low pressure system, and there's that storm that was supposed to just meander off into the Atlantic. GFS has now got it tracking closer to, again, southern parts of North Carolina, and then just pull away. But that's not the storm that we're watching for New York City. This is Tuesday, May 19th. This low pressure system right here, the way this merges, the way the development, the way it spins, this could be an interesting weekend. On May 19th, they almost like collide, try to organize, and this low pressure system is just rotating off of the East Coast near the New York City area and doesn't leave until the 23rd of May. And look, at GFS made me a liar. There's snow coming in Montana at the end of the month. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Usually when we see these kinds of activity behaviors from the GFS, it forms in a different way. But it almost looks like a nor'easter, the way this is shaped. So there is Invest 90L right here, and it meets up with this front right here. It almost becomes like the core and begins to rotate this weather and keep it consistent over New York City, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, DC, even Philadelphia. So several days of rain into the weekend of May 23rd, Saturday, and then showers across the Great Lakes into the Northeast once again by Sunday. So lots of rain in the Northeast, some rain coming across the Midwest and across the Texas again by Tuesday, May 26th. Pretty big low pressure system drags across the United States. No real major cold fronts, but lots of rain for the East Coast, the South, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. What about the tropics? Are we going to see any more activity there? Well, I can tell you right now, it wants to get active. That's for sure. So very interesting May and June that we are getting ready to approach with these weather patterns. Thank God the warming temperatures are going to be here in the Northeast. I'll tell you that. That's great. Windows are open today. We're enjoying this, but this could be a pretty decent storm for tonight, and maybe I'll get some footage. Maybe we'll get some hail with this. Because usually when you're getting this kind of sunlight like we are right now, we're getting a decent amount. And since the broadcast began, at least, and that's almost 40 minutes. Storm's not due here for another hour or so. That could be big trouble. More heat, more energy. This storm could be a decent thunderstorm. And this part of the New York usually doesn't get these kinds of storms. So especially this time of year. In fact, Mari, you've lived here for a while. Do we get severe thunderstorms like this in May?
I was just sitting in the bedroom with the window open today, Jake, and you mentioned something about the humidity, and I just felt a breeze come in through the window, and it felt like a warm summer breeze that was really humid and moist. And I'm like, wow, how bizarre for May, because we have in northern New York, we have 4 very, very distinct seasons, and lately
Yes.
the past few years have been confused,
Spring, look,
to say the least.
we're going to be in the 70s starting next week, and it's not going to look back. I almost feel like we're going to skip spring and go right into summer.
It's weird.
Because, like I said, we've been in the 40s and 50s. Last night was the first night we turned off the heat. We've had freeze watches all week. We had record lows on Tuesday morning. So I think we'll probably report tomorrow as well to kind of watch the developments of this. If there's anything to report tonight, we will come back live and do a report. Maybe there will be something to report after the storm. Maybe I'm all hype right now. But hopefully that doesn't knock out our power thinking about that now. We've had some internet issues too, so we'll have to see. If there is any news that will break tonight, we will be live. Mario, would you like to say hello or goodbye to anybody in the chat? We're going to wrap this up.
I can say hi. I don't know. I don't have my mic, Jake.
They can hear you.
They can hear me.
Yeah, it's picking you up.
You asked if there's any reports about that earthquake damage. I didn't get a lot of damage reports. The biggest comment when it happened was that it was really a rolling earthquake.
I remember you mentioned that.
Notable. Everyone's talking about that rolling feeling, but nothing major to report at this time. I know we had an earthquake, not to that size caliber, but it took almost 2 months to find all the damage just from that small quake. I mean, the bridge downtown is cracked.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it took
so
a little bit.
Damage reports sometimes take a while to come in, so we'll follow it and see what comes in. I'll just say hi to everyone in the chat. I don't have my thing up, but hello to everyone in the chat. Have a great weekend.
If we're not back tomorrow, have a great weekend. Hello to Thor out there. Good to see you. Scott Bros. Say hi to some new faces out there. Pete, how you doing? Tom, good to see you. Veg, and of course, the Starman, David Birch. Nice to see you, my friend.
Starman.
Melody, also, good afternoon to you as well. And guys, we appreciate the support, especially over at our sister channel, WTF Sky, with the Middleman Politics and the Weird News, which the Weird News will be tomorrow night with Mari, our host Mari.
I told everyone you're growing your hair out. Try to catch yourself a pet Sasquatch.
Well, you know,
Adirondack
Sasquatch. It's you know,
you want to be like
we're in the no haircut zone. So what do you do? But check us out tomorrow night on WTF Sky for the Weird News, and maybe tonight we might go live as well to have a chat with our subs. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see how the night goes. I'm not making any promises. We'll definitely be back Saturday on WTF Sky. And if there's anything to report news-wise on Grand Solar Minimum, we will make sure to report back to you guys as soon as we can. All right. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon. We hope everyone has a safe weekend, and we will talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.